I completely reject the idea of institutional racism, specifically because there is absolutely nothing in which can hinder anyone from achieving anything within this country. I mean, for me, for instance, yes, I'm not a black person, but again, I'm more of a minority. And in my eyes, like many people, I believe that really focusing and scoping on this one issue really does take away the opportunity to speak about it on other issues for other minorities. Well, I believe.
So this is interesting. Can I just? You've said something really. Hang on. You've said something really challenging, I think, for many people. So I'm gonna pick up on that. You said that you completely reject the idea of institutional racism.
Completely.
I'm really surprised because obviously we had the Macpherson report after the murder of Stephen Lawrence reflecting on institutional racism, in fact defining what institutional racism was, and then talking about that in terms of Metropolitan Police. We then had the Casey report in which she further extends the definition of institutional racism away from just race to homophobia and misogyny. We've just, in fact, in a few minutes' time, I'm going to be talking to our correspondent about the comments made by Sir Ian Livingston of Police Scotland, who's now leaving as the head of that force, where he says his force has been institutionally racist and there's a long way to go. So you've got a whole raft of experts saying, listen, in terms of policing, that which is just one example of an institution, but a very, very important one in this country, as being affected by institutional racism or, in the case of the misogyny and homophobia, and you still reject it?
I still do. Reason is, I mean, like I said, we are much more progressed than we were, and make no mistake, there will always be that very small contingent of people who are, by all means, bigoted and who do have very detrimental views when it comes to protecting minorities within the UK, certainly, especially with women, especially with sexism, racism, homophobia, and so on.
But we know it's not just a minority.
And again, they don't speak for the majority of the people.
But we know it's not just a minority. We know it's not.
How is it not the minority?
Because what's your understanding of institutional racism, might I ask?
Essentially, an institution which is set up almost to directly or indirectly not allow people to progress. I mean, I think it's by default that.
The original definition, the Macpherson definition, was talking about public services that have structures, so similar to what you're saying, have structures within them that are set up to actually fail members of ethnic minority groups because they are so hindered by racism that they are not serving ethnic minorities because they are racist, right? And that actually it becomes a way of thinking and acting and being for an institution, to the point where people inside the institution are so taken up by the groupthink that they're completely unable to challenge from within. And that's why it's incredibly important when you have independent assessors coming in and looking at institutions saying, there is a problem here, and we have taken evidence from a range of people, and we don't have skin in the game, literally, that actually when they call out institutions for being institutionally racist, I am surprised when somebody likes, I'm going to be honest, Alpha, when you call up and you say, I just don't believe it, I'm really taken aback by that.
Yeah, I also don't believe it as well, because in actual fact, it's the ethnic minorities in this country which have now become more successful than the white British people.
That's not
it's
true.
the ethnic minorities
by which metrics?
Are more likely to
by
go.
Which metrics?
Well, educationally first. Let's begin with education. Culturally,
education. It's Chinese kids, and I'll get the figures up. But broadly speaking, it's Chinese kids and Indian kids. If you are a Muslim Bangladeshi
boy,
you have some of the worst outcomes when it comes to education in this country. There is still huge. There is still.
Who became chancellor?
They are a handful, and I would argue they are outliers.
Really?
Yeah, and I speak for myself. People look at me, Alpha,
well?
And they will say, you are a woman who is now sitting, talking to up to 1 million people on LBC, and I understand that they will turn around and they'll say, there you go, that's evidence that there's no such thing as racism, and certainly not structural racism within society. And I will say, how many more of us are there? Precisely
many more.
None. No, there aren't.
Many
there
more.
is no other Asian woman like me working either on this radio station or elsewhere. That is not happening anywhere. So that's what I mean about there's a sociological phenomena. Listen.
Identity.
I would argue that there's sociological phenomena, which means you will always have outliers in any community who are going to be disproportionately successful. Does that mean that we should turn around and roll up the ladder from behind us? No, I think actually it's incumbent on us. I suspect you're probably a very successful person. I believe it's incumbent on us, particularly ethnic minorities, to understand that, yes, we may well have been successful, but does it mean that other ethnic minority groups are being as successful? Does it mean that other groups within our own ethnic minority are as successful as us? And if the answer is no, then it's incumbent on us, I would say, to look thoroughly at both ourselves and society as a whole and figure out how to equalise it.
Well, yes, that sounds very idealistic. The only thing is that who says that no one can be as successful as we are? Who says that? That you literally, quite literally, there is nothing stopping anyone in this country from working hard, really working hard. And I'm not criticising anyone and saying potentially people don't work hard. I'm just saying that if everyone puts their head down, especially in my position, people of the same background to me, all ethnic minorities as well, if we all put our heads down and we all showcase the excellence in which we can bring, there will not be questions of institutional racism. But it's the fact that certain ideas such as institutional racism have really created this bubble around us and other ethnic minorities that make us think, well, to an extent, I believe that potentially I can't make it. And, well, what's the point? That's the issue here as well. That's another thing which I believe has sort of spanned out from institutional racism. It's the self-induced mechanism where you don't believe you can be successful because everything is made to fail around you. And I completely reject that idea, completely.